The evolution of African people. There are many theories about when and where man originated. Formerly, scholars claim that man originated in Asia or Europe. Today, many anthropologists agree that the human race originated in Africa, and that when these Africans left Africa to settle other parts of the world, there was an out-of-Africa event. We do not know when man first appeared on Earth, but most scholars agree that by 200 or 100,000 BC, the first man was living in East and Southern Africa, which is considered to be the original homelands of mankind. Modern man as we know him is supposed to have come from two earlier pre-man types, called Homo habilis, who lived 2 million years ago, and Homo erectus, who lived 1.6 million years ago. There are two theories for the origin of man. They are called the evolution theory and the creationist theory. The theory of evolution maintains that life appeared on Earth by accident as a small cell split into two parts and evolved over time into human beings. The creationists claim, on the other hand, that man was created by God. They support their theory by the laws of thermodynamics, which states that as energy changes, it becomes useless because of randomness, that energy can either be created or destroyed. The theory of evolution maintains that man has evolved over time from a single-celled creature into modern man. Using fragmentary skeletal remains, scientists believe that the fossil record indicates that there have been numerous hominid, man-like creatures, primites, that walked on two legs. Scientists believe there were two branches of hominids that are descendants from Australopithecus afarensis, who lived 2.8 million years ago. They are Australopithecus robustus and Australopithecus bossai. They died out. The earliest fossils of hominids have been found in East and South Africa. This is very important to remember. That we go vice versa. Recently they found some ancient hominids in North Africa, but the oldest hominids still seem to have appeared first in South Africa. Homo is a generic name for man. The first hominid was Homo habilis, who lived 1.8 million years ago. Homo habilis means handyman because of his use of tools made of stone. Man is considered higher than apes on the evolutionary scale because of his use of tools. Homo erectus, or upright man, came after Homo habilis 500,000 years ago. He also made tools and was the first man to leave Africa, the ancestral home of mankind. Homo erectus settled in India, China, and Southeast Asia. All of these hominids walked on two legs. This form of locomotion is called bipedalism. There are two theories to account for the race of mankind: the monogenetic theory and the multi-regional theory. The multi-regional theory maintains that each race is descended from different ancestors that lived in Africa, Asia, and Europe. Today, few scientists believe that each race had a different ancestor. The most popular theory to account for the origin of the various races of mankind is called the monogenetic theory. The monogenetic theory, simply stated, says that all races are descendants from an ancestor that formerly lived in Africa. This theory is supported by the fossil skeletal records, which indicate that the earliest man lived in Africa. In addition, the DNA evidence also suggests that Eve formerly lived in Africa. The Eves were also African. The Aurignacian people who replaced Neanderthals look like this. Below is the ancestor of the Neanderthals. This is Homo heidelbergensis, a Rhodesian man. He is called a Rhodesian man because he was found in Africa. This hominid later migrated into Europe. Here's a picture of Neanderthal man. By 100,000 years ago, he looked like this. As you can see, Neanderthal man looked no different from other Africans. In fact, he could pass for the average Negro on the street. As you can see, there's little difference between the African ancestors of Neanderthals and the Neanderthals themselves. Here we have Cro-Magnon, or Aurignacian man. The Denisovians were also blacks. The brown black-skinned Negro people were the first Homo sapiens. They originated in southern Africa by at least 200,000 years ago, according to the mtDNA. Controversy surrounds the location where man originated in Africa. The birthplace of Homo sapiens, what we call anatomically modern humans, has been located in East and Southern Africa. In Ethiopia, archaeologists found some of the earliest evidence of anatomically modern humans at Omo, dating between 149 to 200,000 years ago. A cranium from Herto, Ethiopia, dates back to 154 to 160,000 years ago. This, along with the remains of anatomically modern humans found in the Sudan and Tanzania, support the idea that man first may have originated in East Africa. Archaeologists agree anatomically modern human remains have also been found in Southern Africa. One of the oldest fossils of an anatomically modern man dates back to 110,000 years ago and was found in Broken Hill, South Africa. Another series of anatomically modern humans date back between 65 and 105,000 years ago and have been discovered in the Classes River caves. But the most archaic human remains from Florishead, South Africa, date between 190 and 330,000 years ago. So as you can see, sometimes they say it's East Africa, but the oldest remains come from South Africa. In Civilizational Barbarism by Cheikh Anta Diop, Dr. Diop charts the raids of the various races. He believes the European group is descended from Cro-Magnon, the first European, according to Dr. Diop. Probably the result of mutation of Grimaldian Negroes during 20,000 years of excessive cold during the last glaciation. The period between 2 million BC to about 3000 BC is called the Stone Age because people used stone to make their tools. The Stone Age is divided into three broad periods. The Old Stone Age, or Paleolithic, which lasts from 2 million to 8,000 BC. The Middle Stone Age, or Mesolithic period, which lasted between 8,000 and 6,000 BC. And the New Stone Age, or Neolithic period, which lasted from between 6,000 BC to 3,000 BC. Most Cro-Magnon people were Negroid. Yes, Cro-Magnon people made fine works during the Aurignacian period, 34,000, 32,000 years ago in Europe. Some Aurignacian sites even go back to 44,000 BC. These people were Negroes. They had a fine art and stone tools. Cro-Magnons invented the needle out of bone to sew skins together. They carved figures of animals from horn and bones. According to Dr. Diop, Europeans probably appeared around 20,000 years ago. He believes that the first Homo sapiens of China appeared in 17,000 BC, and the Chinese type appeared around 6,000 B. The first man in China was Zhudidian man, was a Negro. In fact, all of these so-called ancient people in Europe and China were black people. The first humans in tropical Africa, as a result, they were dark pigmented, like contemporary people of Africa and Afro-America. The first modern Homo sapien population lived in southern Africa, over 300,000 years ago. It was not until 40,000 years later that another African group, Cro-Magnon man, migrated from Africa into Europe. One of the most important inventions of mankind was fire. Man probably learned how to use fire after lightning struck and set grass, leaves, and forests on fire. After this discovery, man used fire to cook their food, heat their homes, and frighten off dangerous enemies. And the project believed man learned how to start a fire 400,000 years ago. During the Paleolithic, early man gathered roots, berries, fruits, and nuts. People who lived in this way were called hunter-gatherers. Man made many advances during the Mesolithic, 8,000 BC to 6,000 BC. This time man tamed the dog and made many stone implements, including arrowheads, spearheads, fishhooks, and the bow and arrow. During the Neolithic, people began to sharpen stone tools and weapons by polishing and grinding them with gritty stones. People at this time invented agriculture, which they learned to use seeds to grow crops like millet, wheat, and barley. Also in Neolithic times, people began to herd sheep and cattle. In Neolithic times, people buried their dead and placed food and the belongings of the dead in the grave. This suggests an ancient man believed in an afterlife. Reliable source of food led to increased population. Increases in population led to a settled permanent communities and new religions. It was after this period, the Neolithic period, that we can truly say that history begins, because it's during this period that we see the appearance of records that inform us about our ancient ancestors.